Why did I wait so fucking long to see this movie? What is going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Dead Jester Circus. You know, ever since I first saw the trailer for this movie, I have been intrigued by it. Because at first view, it kind of reminded me of this weird sort of amalgamation, if that's how you even say the word, between Wolfenstein and Call of Duty Nazi Zombies. What with this sort of skewed World War II timeline and all the crazy Nazi experiments where they're creating like super soldiers and monsters and all that shit. So I was really fascinated by this movie for quite a while. So after about a month of sitting on my fat ass, I decided to go check this movie out. And was it worth it? You goddamn right it was worth it. First things first, this movie was a fucking blast. I had so much fun watching this movie. I don't know why I waited this long to see it, but I'm really glad that I did, and I'm really glad I got to see it in theaters too. This movie is very, very fucking brutal, and I'm not even fucking bullshitting you on that. People get blown apart, ripped in half. Dudes that get infected are slowly morphing into like these fucking monster creatures, and their heads are snapping around. Like, a lot of the fighting scenes are very physical, very visceral. It is just a gore masterpiece. And speaking of the brutality, there was a kill in this movie too that really caught me off guard, and it involves a landmine. And I'm not going to say much more past that, but when it happened in the movie, it literally scared the shit out of me because I didn't see it coming. The pacing of this movie was on point, and right from the jump, you're basically just thrown into the shit, and the movie just doesn't really stop or let up or drag. It just keeps going at a steady pace, and by the time you hit the climax, the pace speeds up like a fucking runaway freight train into a hellstorm of bullets, fire, and fucking monsters. It is glorious. One of the things I really noticed about this movie too was the tonal shift. For the first half of the movie, it feels like a traditional war movie. You're following these soldiers that have to complete this mission, and then once they get to their objective and they get to the village and they find the secret Nazi laboratory where they're doing all the experiments, the movie switches tone from like a war story almost immediately into survival horror. And in that regard, it reminded me a lot of Predator, where the first half of Predator, it feels like a traditional kind of action movie, and then it switches into this survival horror story. And that's the same feeling I got from Overlord. I'm not saying it is Predator or is similar to it, it's just the way the movie shifts from one thing to the other, and almost abruptly. This movie also had really good cinematography, really good direction, but holy fuck, the sound design in this movie. That opening scene when they're flying over and they're getting shot at, the sound alone, I mean, the theater was just vibrating. It was shaking. Like, I was expecting my fucking face to melt, Raiders of the Lost Ark style, from the sound of this movie. The story was pretty straightforward. There wasn't much in the way of really deep storytelling going on, but the characters in this movie were so well written and so well developed for the type of movie that this is, that you really get invested in them, especially when the shit starts hitting the fan. You actually really start caring for these people, and you want to see them make it out of this in one piece. The main Nazi villain, Waffner, oh my god, he is the type of villain that you just love to fucking hate. At times, he kind of reminds me of the Christoph Waltz character, Hans Landa, from Inglourious Bastards. And then, if you just took that and paired it with, like, the mania of a Michael Shannon character, like Zod or his character from Shape of Water, that's what this guy really feels like to me. And by the end of the movie, he is just fucking chewing the scenery, and it is delicious to watch. But the actor who stole the show for me in this movie was Wyatt Russell. And if you don't know this, that is actually the son of Kurt Russell. And there are moments in this movie where I swear to God, he looks just like a younger version of his dad. It is uncanny. But I love his character in this movie. He plays such an asshole, but by the end of the movie, you grow to actually really like him, and he becomes really badass. Probably one of the most badass characters that I've seen in film, maybe in the past couple years. I fucking loved him in this movie. But as much as I did love this movie, I do have to point out the fact that it really didn't feel like a horror movie to me. And that's kind of what they advertise this as being, like this blend of action and horror. You get plenty of action, but I don't really feel like they did much in terms of the horror. They were very predictable, and you can kind of see coming from a mile away. Yes, there were tense moments in there. There were a couple scenes in there where the tension gets ratcheted up a little bit, but I really didn't get the scare factor that I was looking for. That was my only real problem with this movie, was the fact that, yeah, there was action, but there really wasn't that much horror to it, which doesn't make it bad. It's still a fucking awesome ride. I just wish I could have gotten a little bit more scares in there. Bottom line, this movie knows exactly what it is. It's a balls-out hellride full of buckets of blood and bullets. And if you're anything like me, you'll be leaving the theater wanting to buy another ticket to come see the very next show. That's how much I loved this movie. And it's already leapfrogged Strangers Prey at Night for my sleeper hit of this year. Like I said, the horror aspects of this movie might have been a little predictable and a little underwhelming, but the brutality of this movie will blow your fucking balls off. And that's my review for Overlord. I cannot stress how much fun this movie is. I had a blast watching it. Please like and subscribe below. But before I end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to Lee over at Drum Dums. He was awesome enough to take a design I made for him and put it onto a t-shirt, which you can find at his store if you go to his YouTube page. He's just a super awesome guy. I love his reviews. I highly recommend you go check him out. I am just extremely grateful and humbled. So thanks again, Lee. Anyway, that's it for this video. I will catch you around next time. Adios.